This is a Viva PR podcast.
PR more so can be guilty of giving juniors the more laborious task. It's important to give exposure as best as possible. If you don't try and get on with your colleagues, a third of your day for 5 of the 7 days is going to be boring. I do think it's really important not to niche too much. Keep your skills open. Something I value most in a job is doing something different every day. PR gives you that opportunity.
Here at PR in the Real World, we're determined to keep shining a light on the people and stories that don't always make the industry headlines, but they absolutely reflect the truth about our world. So in this episode, we're reconnecting with someone who's very much part of the Viva story. Harriet Dawson began her PR career with us right here at Viva just 3 weeks before the UK went into lockdown. Fast forward to today, and Harriet's building a brilliant comms career on the other side of the world in Melbourne, where she blends digital and traditional PR. So this story, well, it's about sliding doors moments and seeking out and saying yes to opportunities, and then learning to back yourself, even when you're still finding your feet. We talk about the lessons you only learn by being thrown in at the deep end, and what she's discovered about the different comms cultures in the UK versus Australia, and why working relationships are crucial wherever you are in the world. Harriet's story is a reminder that careers aren't always linear, but with the right mindset and a bit of bravery, they can take you further than you imagined. Shall we crack on? Harriet, great to see you again. Let's start with a quick snapshot of where you are now and what you're doing and how you ended up there from your early days at Viva.
Yeah, sure. So I've been living in Melbourne for the past 2.5 years. I'm now in digital PR rather than traditional PR, working at a company called J-Wing over here as a digital PR specialist. And Viva marks the start of my professional career post-uni, which involves a lot of flip-flopping between traditional and digital PR and a few roller coasters along the way. But it marks the beginning of a very exciting journey.
Tell us about the Melbourne and the work scene there and PR and how it compares to what you experienced in the UK.
The PR scene here is really different. It's a lot smaller, despite the country being a lot bigger. The actual volume of publications are far fewer, and there's a lot less churn media. And what I mean by that is they still have elements of clickbait types of articles and, news that isn't really news, but from my experience, some of the pieces are a lot more thought out. So for example, if they've covered that topic in the last month, they might not cover it again. Whereas at home, for example, the Daily Mail UK, one journalist might have 8 stories to put out that day and be happy to cover something that's not hugely relevant or something that was covered last week. It's just not the same over here. In terms of the actual relationships with journalists and things like that, it's a little bit more old-fashioned than what I experienced in the UK. There's a lot of coffees, there's a lot of phone calls. It's a little bit more relationship-based, a little bit slower. And I think that the churn point that I just made kind of factors into that. Whereas I know for a fact, if there's some journalists I'd gone to in the UK and said, hey, do you fancy telling me what you might be writing about soon, what you've got coming up, and have a coffee, they would use an expletive and I wouldn't hear from them again. So it's very relaxed and more relationship based than I experienced in the UK.
Interesting. It's so which do you prefer out of that? I get a sense that the relationship side is important for you.
It definitely is. There's advantages to both, but I'm more in digital PR now than I am in traditional, which is based more in search engine optimization and works on getting backlinks back to your site. So from that point of view, the UK was great because there's more publications you can go to, you're covered faster, but the coverage over here almost means a little bit more because it's taken a little bit longer to get. You've built that relationship, that publication is really important to both you and the brand. So both are nice in different ways.
Let's turn the clock right back and how you got kind of accidentally into PR, because your route into the PR world was anything but conventional. So for the benefit of the listeners, can you explain how it all came about?
Yeah, of course. So I studied international business with communications at uni. I graduated and the plan was to move to Australia, but the doctors found a hole in my heart by accident about May before I graduated and decided to get that one sorted out. So I had open heart surgery in the November, and my sister had a friend who sold office space in London, and I swear there is a connection here. So her friend was showing this lady around to get a new office and explaining what she did. And she mentioned me, as in her friend's sisters just had this operation and did communications. And this woman was an internal communications mastermind, and she ran these classes. So she gave me a free course entry to one of these classes. So I went all the way down to London, sat at the table with like the head of comms for Etihad and the head of comms for Manchester City, and I was a lifeguard on sick leave, so it wasn't really the most qualified person to be there, but I knew I wanted to be in communications to some degree, and I thought at this point it might be internal comms. Anyway, it was great. I had a really good experience there, and she put me in contact with a couple of people, and I reached out to one of them and said, look, I've had this operation and I'm planning to go to Australia. I've moved that along from having to cancel in the first place. I just want a little 3-month stint somewhere. And she said, have you tried Googling PR agencies near you? And I said, no, I haven't. I'll do that now. And so I Googled it, and up came Viva PR, and it looked great. So I sent you an email that essentially just said, hey, do you fancy giving me a 3-month internship by any chance? And luckily you were intrigued enough to meet me and have an interview with me and then offer me that opportunity. But obviously we didn't know that within 3 weeks of that, COVID would hit.
Yeah, your timing was perfect, wasn't it? So you started, what, February, March 2020?
Yes. Yeah.
3 weeks in the office, getting to know everybody and how we worked, and then the whole world changes. What thinking back to those times, what did you learn? What surprised you about those kind of early days, or what did you find?
Well, I had a job previously. I worked at a swimming pool for 7 years, but the people at the swimming pool were like mostly a similar age to me. Obviously, there's no screens involved, and hadn't really been in a corporate environment before. I'd done a little stint for a placement in uni, but other than that, so it really struck me. I've never been in an agency environment either, so it really struck me how there were so many different clients and different things going on, and how there's so many different tasks and projects all at one time, and also a mixed age group. Like I said before, everybody at the pool had been the same age as me, so it was really nice to be in an environment where I could have relationships and social connections with people who weren't my age. That was something that was an unexpected consequence that I really enjoyed. And then the kind of office environment, like I said, I haven't really been in that so much. So everybody having a little chat, cup of tea, meetings here, sit down there, another chat, working there, everybody doing different bits at different times. Like it was very, it was a different world for me, but one that I'd seen a lot of through a lot of TV shows, I guess.
Life at Viva as a TV show. So you had that chance to meet people, which was important, because we had some people during the pandemic who never actually met the team in real life. But then we were all had to work from home, and you were back at your parents' house working from your bedroom. How did that impact on you both personally and professionally, do you think?
I mean, I'm really lucky to be from very close to Rawtenstall. I'm from Ramsbottom, and it's a beautiful environment. So I've managed to get outside now and about quite a lot. But the lack of social interaction was really tough for me. I've started a new job. It's not a brand new industry, because obviously I covered some of it in uni, but it's in a completely new format for me. And it was very difficult to do hey, can you quickly show me this? Or, hey, what do you think of this that I've written? Without feeling like you're sending 50 messages a day and you're a bit pushy, or your tone might get misconstrued because it's words written down on a screen instead of said. Being at home was great. I mean, I had some great family time, but also there was 5 people at any given time in the house working on calls. The Wi-Fi took a beating. It was hard to balance where everyone should be and how quiet everyone should be at any given time. The bedroom wasn't the greatest backdrop either. So, but people were quite lenient at the beginning. Yeah, it was tough. It was definitely really tough. And for me personally, like I mentioned, I'd had this surgery, so I'd had a mini lockdown before the lockdown.
Yeah.
So it was quite isolating to be back in that environment. And it was very weird that my job was finishing, not with me getting in a car, but me closing my laptop. And that was just it. And then social activities began, which was going downstairs to watch telly instead of sitting upstairs with a laptop.
Yeah, we tried as an agency to kind of keep that team bond together. We introduced very quickly a thing that carries on to this day, the virtual office, and we put yoga classes on Zoom and quizzes and so on. You kind of threw yourself into that as a digital native. You seem better able to throw yourself into that than some of people of my generation, shall we say.
I mean, there was an element for me of I'm brand new and no one knows me other than this 3 weeks. So on one hand, I need to prove myself. And on the other hand, you don't know me well enough to judge whether I'd be how good or bad I'd be at yoga. It would just, you're going to have to find out there and then. So yeah, I mean, I just tried to get involved with as much as possible. And I also was quite grateful that there were attempts of social interactions virtually as well. I know a lot of my friends didn't necessarily get that. And it was the opportunity to have a different conversation and to learn different things. And we did keep up the office chat, which I think was very important for the relationship parts. So yeah, maybe I looked like a natural, but I threw myself into it. I didn't have anything else going on. Yeah.
But you also talked about kind of losing energy and feeling missing people and missing that face-to-face time. How did you cope with those lows, and what did you learn about yourself, do you think, during that time?
I think I learned that I'm definitely someone who does value social interaction, and like in-person relationships are very important to me. But I mean, there were definitely low points for sure. And it was the first time when you come out of uni, it's the first time in your life that the education system's not told you what's going to happen next. You've always had a year plan to follow the next year and the next year and the next year. So I think it was experiencing that alongside a global pandemic, which obviously everybody is experiencing, alongside experiencing I was supposed to be going and doing all these things. And for me, there was the additional layer of it had all been delayed because of my health situation. So I was very down, but it was no one's fault. And because it was happening to so many people at the same time as me, there was literally nothing I could do about it. And I was actually in a really fortunate position that 3 weeks in, I wasn't just completely let go. And I had something to do with my day, and I had something to work towards and something to put on my CV and something to kind of grow and excel in. And I think I would have tried my hardest for a 3-month internship, don't get me wrong, but I would have been thinking about that trip at the end. And I might not have put as much into the company in terms of the relationships and being a part of the environment as I did, if it was only going to be a short-term thing. So I think I learned that there's only so much like poor me that you can do. I did it and it happened and it comes in waves, but I just had to get on with it, because otherwise I'd be sat there with even more time on my hands and I had an additional 9 people to complain to, you know.
So you've been supposed to be going to Australia 3 months in, but that never happened. And you ended up staying at Viva for 18 months, was it?
That's right, yeah.
I still remember although it's many moons ago, I still remember my first 18 months in a career, because it really does shape you. What do you remember about that, and how has those early days been to shape what you're doing these days?
I mean, it gave me the first taste of what an agency was like, and I realized that something I value most in a job is doing something different every day. And I think an agency really gives you that opportunity. And I also think that PR gives you that opportunity because there's always different tasks and projects and stuff like that going on. So I'd say that that was really influential in me being quite confident that I'd chosen the right route. I think I've had a really lovely experience in my career. I think I've had 5 or 6 like major companies, major career moves now, and I've fluctuated between small agency and massive agency. So I really enjoyed being part of a smaller, tighter knit family kind of feel and local kind of feel. I also think it was a really nice way to ease me into how PR works and how media works with those kind of more relationship-esque, publications that are more connected to stuff like, Lancashire or Rawtenstall or those smaller kind of regional publications. It was nice to learn that first before it was like hard and fast news and huge wins. It's nice to get the ones where you've made a smaller client with a smaller budget very happy through one piece of great coverage. That's a really nice feeling.
You've subsequently gone on a, like you say, a career path that's taken in both traditional and digital PR. What's key lessons that you've learned through that, and do you have a preference of which direction you're going to go in the future?
Digital PR is essentially an SEO tactic that uses the pillars of traditional PR to help with the SEO side of things. So there's a lot of crossover. And through being involved in both, I think it's very telling how the media and how clients use the media is different per client and what wins look like. I also think that both of them show that it's really important to have those relationships, and it's really important to be adaptable to what tasks need you for that day. So for example, there's a lot of writing tasks in the press releases or the pitches, and then you've got the creativity side of things as well. And by jumping between them, I've learned to focus on those particular parts of my brain at different times. So it's great that I can write a good press release and that'll get me really far on a good day in traditional PR. But what digital might need that day is a really creative idea that uses different data and all that jazz. So it's made me be a lot more adaptable and have a lot more skills just in general, I would say. I don't particularly have a favorite. I really enjoy being in digital PR at the moment. However, I do think it's really important not to niche too much, because the industries are different sizes and different dependent on where you live. So it's really important to keep your skills open and not to overpromise as well. I would say is the other major learning from both sides of what coverage you can get. And that's why it's really important to define what the wins are in the beginning.
Yeah. And you've also switched countries, not just switched kind of like disciplines, but switched countries. And again, has that made you more adaptable and working out the transitions there? Because obviously you went to Australia with a certain skill set and a certain kind of like knowledge about how the world works, and it works differently there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely more adaptable because of that. I've done traditional PR in both the UK and Australia, and then digital PR in both as well. And they're both really different. Like I said at the beginning, the market sizes are different, but the actual way it works is different. Some of the terms are different. For example, here in Australia, someone referred to contacts, as in a journalist contact, as pitches. And I was like, well, I haven't got any pitches yet. I'm not there. So you should have 20. What are you talking about? Just that kind of thing of just even the generic terms, the databases, the platforms, the importance. I came over here and people do say that Australia is maybe a couple of years behind in terms of how advanced some of their industries are. There's elements of PR, I would say, but I don't know whether that's just because it feels a little bit slower. But sometimes you'll have people using these huge outreach platforms, and then you go somewhere else and they're just using mail merge. So there's this. I enjoyed the transition of moving to Australia to see the differences and using my UK learnings to help influence and make things more efficient. But also there was something really nice in it being maybe a little bit more simple over on this side at first, and not needing to be so big and so complicated and spend so much money on these platforms.
You're based in Melbourne. Is that would it be a different experience? Do you expect if you were elsewhere in the country, if you were saying in Sydney or across in Perth?
That's a great question. I think I would have a similar experience in Sydney. Perth, I haven't been to yet, but from what I've heard, it is significantly smaller, and there is a time difference to Perth as well. We have the advantage of being in the same time zone as Sydney the majority of the time. I think there's definitely a huge difference in whether I lived in a city or a regional area. As you would know, being up in Lancashire, you've got your regional publications and the smaller businesses around that. I think it's very similar here where, you know, the small village that's 2 hours inland, they don't care about news from Sydney. Like, no. They really don't care. They only want to report on the population of the town and who's around that town. So that is very similar. I think if I lived in one of those villages, I would have a very different experience, because it would be more, I would have one or two contacts that I am constantly going to.
Yeah.
Whereas what I'm doing in the cities is, and you know, with remote work being so like the norm, I'm working on clients that are in Sydney or in Brisbane or in Perth, but the journalists they want to target are also in those cities. I'm going to loads of different people at loads of different times.
You've seen the industry now close up, right from like entry level. What advice would you give to somebody, a Harriet from 5 years ago, who was trying to get the foot in the door in the PR world today?
I would advise them not to niche too soon, and make sure that you experience all parts of the process and the chain to see which bits you actually do and don't like. And maybe you don't really like writing press releases, but maybe that's because that particular client or project, it felt a bit boring. Like, give every task a couple of goes to see if you don't like them. And also trying to change your mindset for the ones you don't like. Like, I remember Lisa saying to me, she's like, this is phrase, it's eat the frog. And eat the frog does make a lot of sense to me, but I think she was trying to say, get the worst one out of the way. Get the worst one out of the way first, and then the fun ones can come after. Because I'm definitely a victim of, not a victim, I'm a perpetrator of doing the fun things first, because that's the bit I want to do and I'm excited to. But actually, save the best till last.
Interesting. A good way of looking at it. What skills or qualities do you think really matter when you're starting out?
I think socializing, and I don't mean that as being the loudest in the room necessarily, but I mean giving every other person a chance to have some time with you and make those connections. Because for me, I keep going on about relationship building, but you just don't know where you'll cross paths with someone later on or how. And if you had a good relationship with them, even if you didn't directly work with them, they're much more likely to help you out if you ever need it, or if you ever have a good opportunity that, you know, could help them out. It's just, I would make sure you give everybody some time to get to know you, and vice versa, get to know them.
And do you think the PR industry in general could do a better job of supporting young and entry-level talent?
I think that with any industry, but maybe PR more so, people can be guilty of giving juniors the more boring or the more laborious tasks, and that then feeds into you going, for example, I don't like writing press releases, because maybe you've been given 10 press releases by 10 people, and I think it's important to give exposure as best as possible to all different parts. So for me, I remember working directly with you, which was, you know, pretty abnormal for someone so junior to work with the CEO. And you put me on Eurofighter and we worked on warplanes. And I remember being like, this is way too intense and like way too advanced for me, surely. But it's one of the clients and one of the tasks that really sticks with me. And I felt really impactful, and I felt like a really valued member of the team. And I tried really hard. So I think it's really important to allow juniors to be in the room for some of the bigger clients and the more fun things, and to see the bits that hopefully in a few years they'll be more involved with, but to give them insight and a chance, a bit of exposure from the beginning.
Phew, that's a relief. It's gratifying to know that I do at least do some things right. You've been really open throughout your time at Viva and on this podcast today about your own health journey. Has that kind of shaped your perspective on work and life in general? I mean, it must have been a real shock at the age of 20, 21 to get that kind of diagnosis and open heart surgery. It sounds incredibly scary.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, one of the reasons I suit PR is because I love a good story, and it's a great story. Now, I was 22. I think the main learning that I've taken from that is everything happens for a reason. I was supposed to go to Australia before I found that out, and then obviously couldn't go. I was supposed to go, and then COVID happened. And actually, when I came out 2.5 years ago, it was exactly the right time. I fell into a great place to live after I travelled. I got a really good job opportunity kind of offered up to me. The job that I actually went into was because my dad met a guy in Lake Garda when he was on holiday.
That's a good
who
Harriet
happened
story.
to know someone with an opportunity. And then I got offered a different job, and it all just sort of fell into place. So I think that everything happens for a reason. And my other mantra is don't ask, don't get. Like, I recognize that I came out with a great university degree and good skills and good experience, but I don't ask, don't get. Emailed you, can I have an internship? Like, you need to sometimes just give it a go, and the worst they can say is no.
You're remembered fondly by the team here, by some of the energy and the humour that you brought to Viva. Do you still carry that kind of spark? I mean, thinking back, you had us doing some crazy things like some kind of Eurovision dance that to this day the video is banned. But
I mean, I think it's important to have fun at work always. I know that work's for working, and at the end of the day, you need the outcome and the money, to put it more bluntly. But it's so important. It's such a massive part of your day. It's a third of your day. So if you don't try and get on with your colleagues and try and have a fun time, then a third of your day for 5 of the 7 days is going to be boring. It just will. So those are people as well. Like, there'll be connections for life. You don't know when you're going to need them. You don't know when they're going to need you. And if you can have a nice time together, it's so much easier for someone to help you when you're having a bad time. And to go back to your previous question about when I was having sort of those low periods, if I didn't have some of those good relationships that I'd made through, building personal relationships and taking time to getting to know the people, that would have been a lot worse. People don't know what's going on behind closed doors, obviously. So people were very mindful with me. They were very helpful if I needed to give any work away or if deadlines needed to be pushed slightly. And I think that having a good relationship with people at work helps to make you feel like you've got a support network there if you ever need it as well. So yeah, it's just nice to have a good laugh.
Talking of which, I mean, you're also remembered for an ability to crack your back while you sat in an office chair, and, stick pens in your mouth, and are you still doing these kinds of the party tricks?
Well, oh yeah, I've got plenty of tricks. Don't worry. I'm a bit nervous of screenshots these days, so I try and do them in person only where I can.
So when you look back at the kind of career today, what are you most proud of from that intern application in early 2020?
The thing I'm most proud of is, I think, my ability to have the conversation and to back myself, because we all suffer from imposter syndrome. And, I was not qualified to be on that client. I probably wasn't even qualified for the internship, but I backed myself and gave it a good go. And I've ended up in a position over here where I'm 6 months in to a job on the other side of the world that somebody recommended me because they thought that I had all this experience and all this opportunity. And don't get me wrong, I do. But they had gotten the impression that I know what I'm talking about. And sometimes I don't believe that I know what I'm talking about. So the fact that someone else got that impression, well done me.
Yeah, well done you. So what's next for Harriet Dawson then? What are you curious to explore next from a PR world perspective?
Well, digital PR over here in Australia is a lot smaller than it is in the UK. It's still in a very early stages, early phases. So I'm keen to be involved in my company growing that a lot more. I'm getting sponsored, which should mean no more job hopping for a little while, which I'm excited for. And yeah, just excited to be a part of their offering, a key part of their offering, and getting these wins, building these relationships, and maybe in time having a conversation with some juniors who are deciding between which one and giving a very balanced argument for both.
Excellent. Harriet, I know you've had a very busy day. We're at the start of our working week, so thank you so much for your time. Great to speak to you again.
You're very welcome.
And, we'll all be watching with interest to see what happens next in the Harriet Dawson stuff.
Stay tuned.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening to PR in the Real World. If you've enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could subscribe to the podcast and leave us a quick review. Your support really helps spread the word and reach more marketing and PR professionals just like you. And don't forget to share this podcast with your colleagues or anyone who'd benefit from the insights we share. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time for more tips, strategies and real world stories from the PR frontlines.